You ready? Are we ready? Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Crisis Technology Center presented by the Emerging Technologies Caucus and IAEM. We have our next micro talk coming up right now. It's our series of small talks to talk about a variety of emerging technology topics. And this one is one that's going to be useful for any emergency manager out there, no matter how comfortable you are with your smartphone. It's what to do when you deploy, what tech should you have with you in your go bag, what can you do to make your life easier so you didn't forget the thing you suddenly realized you really needed. So I'm very excited to announce Sarah Miller to talk about it, and she's got a lot of good personal experience to draw on here. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Jennifer. So this summer we had a very unique summer. I'm an emergency manager in Washington State. I'm part of several deployment teams, and our state caught fire, as did California and Idaho this year. And it was interesting because I was flying home. This is a picture. I happened to be flying home from somewhere, and I had my camera with me, and I pressed it up against the window as I flew over eastern Washington and took pictures of the fires. And little did I know that a few days later I would be down there in the middle of all that smoke doing things that I didn't think I would be doing. And so a few days later I got the call to deploy. Interestingly enough, I did not deploy to do technical things. I deployed as a as a planning section chief. By the time I got there, they didn't need a planning section chief anymore. They needed a finance section chief. And we did that for a day, and then I moved into a public information officer role for the rest of the time I was there, doing social media. But this was kind of our drive up here, and I think it kind of sets the stage for what was going on. So I saw it from the air. This was broad daylight as we were driving up, that smoke blocking. That's the view from our hotel room the night we bunked down. It's a little fuzzy because I was taking it not with the good camera, because really all I wanted to do was sleep. That's the view from our hotel room as we looked off at the fire on the ridge and hoped really a lot that it wasn't coming towards us. So this was after we had established. This was a picture of my workstation because it fairly well described some of the tech things that were going on. You can see in that picture some of the essential items: a computer, a phone, a camera, cough drops, coffee, eye drops, paper, pens, deodorant, because that's always important to have. And that's kind of how my workstation ended. But my bag of goods started out looking something like, well, exactly like that. That is the entire contents of my backpack that I had to dump out for, I don't know why, but I had to dump it all out, dumped it on my dining room table, and realized that I had entirely too much stuff, and yet at the same time, not nearly enough. There were, in spite of the piles of things in there were things missing from my bag that I really, really, really needed. And the interesting thing is, as this moved forward, I deployed, and then somebody deployed behind me, so I reached out to them on social media and I said, I know you're coming to the fire. Here's the things you must absolutely bring with you and the things you need to know. And then he took that and he reached out to the person replacing him and said, hey, here's the things I was told, here's the things I learned while I was here, here's the stuff you need to know. And then I got contacted by a colleague in California who said, hey, I heard you just went to a wildfire. I'm going to one tomorrow. What do I really need to know? And from that, we developed a collaborative online document where we started documenting what we all thought we needed to go to a deployment. And there's a link in here. You'll be able to access that. We'll tweet it out for the people online. It delved into a lot more than tech, but the tech things were really important for this, and that's what we're focusing on. So we made a collaborative checklist that now lives on the internet, and we talked about things that we need. And I'm going to try and do this with one hand because I have the bag of doom with me, and I took enough stuff out of it so I can lift it with one hand. So the first thing we talked about that was a big issue was a laptop. And you tell people, okay, you're going to somebody else's territory, you need to take a laptop that can access the local network. Your IT departments have heart attacks when you say that. Your IT department says, no, 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 no. We can't give you a computer with administrative rights. We're going to give you a MiFi, and then you connect your computer through the MiFi, and you can do all the things you need to do. Or call us and we'll help you hook it up. And that happened to me. So you saw in the picture, I was not using a big clunker laptop. I was using my personal Surface Pro, because that's what I had with me, because my work laptop, we couldn't connect. We could not make it connect to the internet in any way. It was completely locked down. And the MiFi they sent with me had no service because the cell tower had burned down. The cell tower that served that area had, well, the tower was still up, but all communication to it was cut. We had no data service on the provider that my organization used. So I took my own device, thankfully. Now what I added to it after that, you might notice it doesn't have a lot of ports on it. There's not a lot of places to plug things in. So one of the critical things that we added, sorry, the bag takes two hands, but there we go. So one of the critical things that we added, or I added because it's mine, is an Ethernet adapter. So it's a USB connected Ethernet adapter, plugs into the side so that I can plug into any network anywhere that's hardwired. It made the IT guy where I was at much happier because he could just plug it in, configure it the way it needed to go, and I was off to the races and doing useful things while everybody else was still puttering around trying to get their laptops to work, having long drawn-out conversations with their IT departments who were trying to help make things happen. But the nice thing about this too is my Surface has one USB port. This adds 3 more USB ports to it, all 3.0 ports, which gives me high-speed data for a multitude of devices. The next thing that we added to this, that I added, I keep saying we, as though someone else owns this computer besides me, is an adapter for the HDMI out so that I can connect this to a projector somewhere if I need to. I can connect it to anybody's projector if they have one. On a power cord, this is a replacement power cord because I promptly left the original power cord somewhere else. The moral of that story is always have a second power cord somewhere. Luckily this has long battery life, so I got on Amazon Prime and I had my new power cord delivered to me where I was the next day so that I could continue to use my things. Charging cords for you and all of your new friends. One of the most useful things you will find is a multi-port USB charging device. This one is particularly cool because it plugs into AC, it's got 2 ports in it, but it also plugs into a car. So it's a dual use and it's super handy. The only annoying thing about this particular one is a really bright blue light, and so when you're trying to sleep in a hotel room, it's too bright. So it has tape over it because that was important. A variety of charging cords are important too in all shapes and sizes. So I have a tiny one that goes with a backup battery pack. So backup battery so that when you deploy actually out of the EOC or into the field and they say, hey, you're not going to be gone long, don't worry about it. You always stick your backup battery in your pocket with the charging cable because just a little bit might be several hours from now. That was a lesson learned by one of our other colleagues who had to go. He's like, we're just going to go out to the field for a little bit. 8 hours later, with a dead phone, he came back to the EOC where his battery and cords were waiting for him. It was not good. So I carry a container, actually, that has charging adapters that go on the end of a micro USB cable. So I have a little container, and I have tons of little adapters in here that connect to all sorts of things. So I can charge just about anything that somebody might throw at me, including the new lightning cables for Apple. I have retractable charging cords because you don't need cables everywhere. I have extra power blocks, a surge protector and a power strip. I don't carry one of those in my backpack. I do have one I take when I deploy because when we left they said, no, you don't need to worry about those things. We physically took our extension cords and power strips out of the trunk of the car and put them back. And when we got there and said, hey, where's the extension cord and the power strip, they said, we don't have any more, we're all out. And so then we had to go to the Walmart or wherever it was and buy new extension cords and power strips. So a cell phone is critical, or a tablet. I have a cell phone, everybody's have a cell phone. What I have for my cell phone that's really, really handy is a multi-card reader. So I have a little mini USB or micro USB that plugs into my phone Sorry, I didn't think about this needing 3 hands. And my phone is buzzing now just for added excitement. This plugs in, and I can plug just about anything into my phone now to read it. It's got a USB in, it's got micro SIMs, it's got USB, it's got just about anything. But what it's really useful for is the SD card from my camera. So I can take pictures with my digital camera, plug this into my phone, and immediately upload pictures to the internet right off my camera using this little device. So that's a very, very handy thing that I use. The other thing that's critical, and you'll probably think this is overkill, but I'm an emergency manager and I believe in redundancy. So I can make a hotspot with my phone if this service provider has coverage where I'm at. The fire I was at, they did not have service. So then I went to my unlocked, use any SIM MiFi device. So I happen to have a SIM for a different provider in here that I can use internationally, pay as I go. This one, yes, I have 2 MiFis and a different hotspot. This is a new on the market MiFi device that has an unlimited, well, not unlimited, but non-expiring data. So I buy a data bundle for it, and it doesn't expire. It just keeps moving until it stays there until I've used it all up, and then I can recharge it. And most MiFis, when you have a pay-as-you-go plan, the data expires or has a limit, and you're either paying for too much and you're not going to use it, or it runs out before you're done. So these were invaluable because where we were at, even though we had hardwired internet, it was getting saturated. There were way too many people on it. We switched to the MiFis for some people just so that we could get connected to the internet. The other thing that's critical is a pair of earphones. Teeny tiny ones are just fine, but sometimes you just need to listen to something and all of the people around you don't need to listen to it. Maybe it's music. Maybe your family member sends you a video because you've been gone for days and you want to see it, but not everybody needs to hear it. So a little pair of earphones is critical to being able to do your job properly. And a camera, and I don't have my camera with me because I didn't bring it here. This isn't a deployment. But some sort of camera other than your phone is really handy. She's waving a camera around back there. I have a little waterproof point and shoot camera that I throw in. We have, for work, we have a little GPS-enabled ruggedized camera, which is really cool for taking pictures, particularly in recovery, because every time you take a picture, it tags it with the latitude and longitude, so you don't have to go back and guess where you might have been at the time you took the picture. So those are some of the basic lessons we learned. One of my colleagues pointed out that we do a really bad job of planning forward. So, and it's true. As we were working through our process, doing tech stuff in the EOC, nobody was really planning to replace us because we had a unique skill set, and nobody knew how to say, hey, we need a nerd for the EOC. Can you please find us a nerd? There's no type for that. They're not part of an IMT. Nobody knew what to do that. How to do that. So we were kind of reaching out and finding our own replacements in a way, because they needed to come with the same kind of tools and skill sets that we had, because there was nobody else there who had those. And so that it worked well. We learned a ton over the summer collectively. Emergency managers all over the country provided data and input for this, and it got better. And we're going to continue to improve it. But there's a full checklist, and there's a short link at the bottom of the screen, and I'm sure somebody's going to tweet it out soon for the people who are on the internet. It's already tweeted out. But it's a complete checklist of everything we wish someone had told us to take with us before we got there, so that nobody had to learn the hard way, because we're really good with reinventing the wheel in this business, and we forget to just say, hey, here's a thing you could have done to make your life easier. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions you might have or hear comments on things you wish somebody had told you to take with you in your gear bag. Sorry? Oh, and for people online, because apparently there are some, you can also ask questions. If you type them, Jennifer is standing there looking at the screen, questions or comments, and she will read them out. That's probably because I have 3 MiFis. I see somebody raising a hand. I don't know if I can hear you. The black thing I put in my phone, This is a multi-card reader. So mine, because I have an Android device, it has a micro USB plug. It has a brand on it. You can come look at the brand later if you'd like to. But I went to my favorite online store and I typed in micro card reader, USB micro card reader, and this one came up, and I think I paid $6 for it. And I actually got it for a trip to Europe. I took it all over Europe with me so that I could take pictures with my camera and put the card into my phone and pull pictures with my phone, post them to blogs or whatever using my phone. So I did a 3-week trip to Europe with a blog, and I didn't even take a computer with me. We did it all with my phone and a card reader.
Sarah, in addition to your Wi-Fi's that you have, Freedom Pop is another one. Freedom Pop's Wi-Fi.
So Dawn has pointed out there's another MiFi provider called Freedom Pop, which does. It's a free service.
500 meg free.
You get 500 megs of data free, and if you go over that, you pay a certain amount. But it's got service all the time. So Freedom Pop, that's something we can all go look up when we're done, because I'd never heard of that one. Any other comments, questions? You're free to come up and paw through my bag a little bit, ask questions about specific devices if you'd like. And thank you all very much. And I'm going to hand the mic back to Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Sarah. We really appreciate you coming here and joining us today, and we're very excited by all of the different talks that we've had today. We've gone everywhere from wearable technology to drones to your checklist when you deploy. So we really try to cover every single section of emergency management here as it applies to emerging technology, and we're not done yet. So for our 2 breaks tomorrow, there's one in the morning and one during lunch. We will also be having micro talks then. And there's no one here to conveniently cue me as to the topics, because I totally forget them every time. Video conferencing is one of the topics. And social media. You've seen all these lovely social media symbols. So if you want to know about pre-planned messaging, is that what we're doing?
Yes.
Pre-planned messaging. Let's put it this way. If you have an earthquake, what is the first thing you want to tweet? Anyone know? There was an earthquake. It cuts down your 911 calls by 50% if you acknowledge the earthquake on your Twitter account. LA has the data on it. So you can plan a bunch of these tweets and have them ready to go and set up. What's the second tweet? Drop, cover, and hold during aftershocks. And the third tweet? Don't call us to tell us there was an earthquake. So there's a lot of things you can plan out, and there's a lot of resources that already have these messages written out and that you can throw straight into a lot of the programs that we use for social media. So if that sounds interesting to you, please join us tomorrow. If you don't know what one of the symbols are around our booth, especially the ones in the middle of this table, we can tell you. Some of us may know, some of us might not. It's sort of a good quiz game. Can you name every social media symbol around this booth? And so thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you tomorrow. And again, we're the Emerging Technology Caucus. We are a caucus of the International Association of Emergency Managers, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about whatever topic. Have a wonderful evening, everybody.